Good evening, everyone. On behalf of agricultureinformation.com, I'd like to invite the speaker, Colonel Sujan Mohanty, who will speak about commercial orchids cultivation and its challenges. And before we start, I would like to inform all the participants that this meeting is being live streamed on our website, agricultureinformation.com. So there are few participants on the website also who will be listening to the talk. They'll post the questions directly on the website and I will read out them one by one. And from the Zoom, the participants can ask their questions directly once Mr. Mohanty completes his presentation. So I now request the speaker to begin his talk. Thank you.
Yeah, good evening, ma'am. And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am Colonel Sujan Mohanty. I am a retired Army officer from the Corps of Engineers. I just giving a brief introduction about myself. I retired in the year 2012. Post that, I was working with the corporate. Then I was into a consultancy company as a director and partner. Subsequently, me and my wife, we joined the farming line in 2018. With this, I start my presentation.
The first step into our farmhouse will mesmerize you with its biodiversity, occasional humming of birds, and tranquil ambience prevailing in a sprawling 15-acre land. One gets amazed to see the magic of mystic nature so close to the hustle and bustle of the smart city, Bhubaneswaer. Welcome to Orchids and More.
Yeah, so you could see a brief glimpse of the aerial view of the farmhouse, which we had created in 2018. Like each of the companies or the unit, small or big, we have a vision and we have a mission. The vision what we had, like me and my wife are the founder and the co-founder of Orchids and More. We started with the vision that it should be engaging the people and encouraging them to be the trendsetters in their own capacity by adopting productive, equitable, and quality farming. Equitable, I mean to say, is that it should be just and fair, not only for the stakeholders, the customers, but also for the workers who are working in our field. The mission is to enable economic growth using innovative technology and process-driven production. Wherever there is a process, there is a discipline, and being from the army, I can very well understand that if there is no discipline, there is no win, be it in the battlefield or be it in the agriculture field. Coming to the conceptualization part of it, why orchids? Why not rice? Why not roses? Why not marigold? Why orchids? Before we start any further, I just want to reiterate my background. I am a civil engineer in the army for 22 years. I started with 3 zeros. Number 10 was zero land bank. People say that we can get into agriculture, we have got ample land, and yes, it is available and we can start it. No, I didn't have. I don't have it now also. Second zero is zero knowledge. Being a civil engineer, absolutely no about agriculture. Nothing I knew. Third zero is no finance or no resources. Being a retired army officer, I had very limited kind of finance with me. But as the destiny would have it, the land was available that belongs to one of my very, very close friend's mother. And it's there in the outskirts of Bhubaneswaer, and she was kind enough to give it on lease to start our farming activity. knowledge, we had to meet people, we had to go to different engineering colleges, we had to go to the fellow farmers, we had to travel to different parts of the country to find out what best can be carried out in the farming. We have to be always receptive. There is Odisha University Agriculture of Technology, there is Horticulture Department of the state. The people were ready to help if you seek help from them. Next point was that for the orchids, once while doing a Google research, we found out that it's one of the most 10 beautiful flowers in the world. Yeah, roses are also part of that. Your tulip is also there, but I can't grow tulip here. If I would have been there in Srinagar, I could have probably done it. So can orchid grow here? Is it doable in my part of the country? Being from Odisha, being from the coastal belt, is it doable? We have to check out what best can be done to have the orchid. As you know, orchid is a tropical flower that grows in the tropic. And fortunately, Odisha falls under the Cancer Tropic of Cancer. That's 23 north of the equator. Second is the light intensity. What you see that four parameters govern the production of the orchid. One is the light, second is the temperature, third is the humidity, fourth is the water quality. Coming to the light, the 25,000 to 30,000 lux is the requirement for the orchids. Coming to the temperature, we require 16 to 30 degrees centigrade temperature is the best suited for growth of orchids. Third is humidity, which is 50 to 75% in the atmospheric air. And the pH value should be less than 7, which is slightly acidic in nature. That's the water what the orchid plants love it. Now, we don't have the temperature starting from 16 to 30 degree here. In the summertime, inside the polyhouse, the temperature goes even up to 48, 47 degrees. But as a human being gets accustomed to the climate, to the vagaries of weather, so does the plant. It can slowly adjust. This is what I had given the figure is there in the book. But on ground, the orchids can also grow in high temperature. Yes, there are reservations, there are problems, but it can be mitigated. Next point, what really motivated us to start orchid is that it has got very high shelf life. Or the cut flowers, once it's cut from the plant, it can stay fresh for around 30 days, 45 days time. Next was whether we should go in for a poly house or for a net house. As I told, me and my wife, we started going to different parts of the country, but before that, we started from the state. In our state, few of the locals were doing the orchids cultivation in the interiors of Odisha, in the coastal belt, using the shade net only. When I went there, I asked why shade net. They said that the orchids love rainwater. I said, yes, perfectly fine. Because why orchids love rainwater? Because orchids love slightly acidic water. And rainwater harvesting is being carried out for the growth of the orchids, and slightly acidic water is very good. But I thought, why, if I'm going to use the shade net and during the monsoon, the torrential rainfall, which is there continuously for 3 to 4 months time, the coconut husk, the media what we are using for the growth of the orchids, it will get totally wet and it becomes soggy and it's going to deteriorate. So we decided, we took a very informed decision that the cost may be more. It's more than 10 lakhs, 12 lakhs rupees between a poly house and a shed net house for 2,500 square meter poly house. But we still decided that yes, we will go in for a poly house. What in the army they say, the more you sweat in peace, the less you bleed in the war. That same thing is applicable in the corporate and also in the agriculture field. You have to do a meticulous planning, then only the success is going to be there. So we started it in September 2017. We took a call, then we had to apply for the subsidy. We had to understand how the things have to move, what kind of documentation is required, how you have to get into a farmer's registration. All these activities were there. And when I started it, Orchids, that time the state government and the central government, we were getting something like 70% subsidy. It's not exactly mathematical 70%, but overall, if you look at it, like whatever the project infra cost, we used to get 60, almost 60, 58 to 60% from the government. So the ground clearance started in March 2018. Then we had to buy the concrete poles, and it's an epiphytic plant, so it grows on the benches. So we had to create the benches. So you can see the top middle figure, which is there. That's the benches are being installed there on the ground. The third is the placement on the beds. The coconut husk was getting placed on the beds. The next is what you can see is the local villagers were employed for the task. The lower center photograph, you can see like my wife is teaching the local villagers how it's going to be planted and how the seedlings are to be placed on the beds and tied to the ropes. The completion of the orchid plantation was there on 18th July 2018. Next, coming to the challenges faced. What I told is that 18 July 2018, we completed the orchids plantation. I had moved out of Bhubaneswaer that time. I was there in Delhi. And on 21st July 2018, there was torrential rainfall in Bhubaneswar. And what happened is that the side wall of the polyhouse caved in and the water gushed into the polyhouse. No, it's not the mistake of the polyhouse manufacturer. First, we have to understand who is to be blamed for it. I totally blame it myself for this devastation which happened just 3 days after the project completion. We had carried out the drainage work in the north side. We had carried out in the northeast side. We had carried out in the south side, but east side was not done. And the slope was there from the east to west. And the water came in, the pressure of the water was there on the vertical wall, and the wall caved in. The second one was, it was a total jungle, like it's next to the wildlife sanctuary, which is called the Chandaka Wildlife Sanctuary. There, as close to the forest, a lot of snakes used to be there, and they used to come out into the open. Once, while working on the bed, the workers could find the snake on the bed itself. So somebody is going to pluck the leaves, how difficult it's for him, what kind of a psychological problem is going to be there with him. Next is the elephants. Lots of elephants used to move around, and they used to come inside the farmhouse totally scot-free. On the top right, you can see the insects swarming the polyhouse even before one of the single pole was erected in the polyhouse. There are thousands and lakhs of black insects which started moving in like a horror movie in English. They started moving in from the jungle, and entire polyhouse surface was black. I had captured one photograph. It's 6 years old, but it's still there with me. So these are the challenges in the commercial cultivation. Then came the cyclone Fani, 3rd May 2019. Our plantation was complete on 18 July 2018. Just 9 months, the blooming had just started. And that's what the Fani has made to our polyhouse. Total devastation. Entire polyfilm was blown off. The wind speed was 185 kilometers. No one can stop it. Commercial cultivation, the most important and most difficult challenge is your marketing. In agriculture field specifically, because we don't have a product to showcase. The people say, sir, you get the flower, then only we can tell you what price you are going to get. But before I get a flower, I have to commit 50 lakhs, 60 lakhs on ground. I don't know whether it's going to grow or not. So market is never set before we started getting the production. Once the production started, initially the flower size is less. That time I forgot, I was a colonel. My wife and me, we used to move from place to place, from retailer to retailer, that this is our orchids. It's a pride for us. But the people said, it's a local stuff, it's very small in size. We never realized that time. Yes, the orchid, the babies also take time to bloom. It's going to take time to become large. Fine. So they didn't take it. So one of the florists helped me. He started buying it from me. Then we never looked back. Then, of course, the disease is going to be there. Pests, insects, fungal, bacteria, virus, snails. So you can see the leaves getting affected. So that those things do have transportation. Getting the orchids, as the farmhouse is in the outskirt, getting it from there to the nearest market, sometimes I had to use my own car. I was only driving it in the car, which you can see it on the slide. I am there and the orchids are there in the dicky and it's there on the rooftop. We have to do each and everything using our own hands. Then came COVID. Yeah, the total selling stopped. No parties, no functions, no marriages, no birthdays. It's totally stopped. Another difficult thing what I have seen in last 6 years time is retaining the manpower. It's very difficult. We can speak an n number of things in the dais, in the seminar, but if we cannot retain the manpower, if we cannot get the correct utilization of the manpower, if they don't, out of their own interest, they do take part in the growth of the farming land, then the thing is not going to succeed. So what we did, we used carbolic acid in the bottles with holes on top of it, and it was there on different parts of the polyhouse outside. The snakes got deterred by that. Then we had the solar fencing made, and the elephants, by grace of God, since we had the solar fencing for the last 6 years, not a single elephant had come in. Before that, every year we used to get around 7 to 8 times the elephants used to come inside our farmhouse. The right side, you can see a multi-purpose vibrating machine. Yeah, first polyhouse when I made all the poles for the benches, around 2,000 of them, concrete poles, we had to buy it from the local manufacturer or the vendor. The quality was pathetic. So this time when we started this second poly house, it was completed on 15th September. I said, why can't we use a vibrating machine? So I had a look at different places. We understood how a vibrating machine works. We got one mistri and our own farm boys were there, and we started making the frames, and we started getting the things cast in situ, the poles. And we made 7 ponds, and each pond, each day, the poles were being dipped inside it for the curing part of it. It's strong like iron now. Now, once the polyhouse is over, there is no need of these farmers, there is no need of these vibrating machines. Then I said that what's going to happen to this machine? What's going to happen to this vibrator? We have got another vermicompost unit. So we have recently developed it, and the sieving of that vermicompost is carried out from the same machine. So whatever activities we are doing, I give 100% responsibility, 100% credit to the team which is working with us. Without the team, there is nothing possible in the farming side. Now, these are few pictures what I have posted. I thought that, yes, these are the local flowers. So let's try to make it better. God was there with us. And local, in its strive to become vocal, we started growing the orchids, and you can see the growth of the orchids. The second photograph from the right, where you can see the white dendrobium orchids being there from top to bottom. It's there in my puja room. And you can see the length is more than 4 feet. It's a record length. Next is on the 2 chairs, what you see, the purple flowers, orchids, that's the Sonia, and Sanon white is the white dendrobium. The height is more than 2.5 feet. So that's the kind of growth of flowers what we had in Bhubaneswaer. COVID, yes, we had a lot of setback for 1.5 to 2 years time, but it taught us something different, something we never realized that we have that skill set. My wife, being from the army, she had the skills of making nice bouquets, nice flower arrangements. We used to gift it to our colleagues, we used to give it to the families, to the ladies, and to the children. So she said, why can't we make it during the COVID time? She started doing it, and she taught my driver and his wife how to make the bouquets. And now these bouquets, we are selling it in Bhubaneswaer and it's going at a premium cost. We didn't stop at orchids, we wanted to do something more. Why I have combined it with the orchids is that if I have got 3 men working for 1 unit of orchids, they work for 3 to 4 hours. Balance 3 to 4 hours, they don't have particularly any work. To get the optimum utilization of the resources, we ventured out into different fields. So we started with the honey production. Again, we got the subsidy from the government, and we have presently 70 bee boxes with us. And per year, we are getting something like 300 to 400 kg of honey. So this is what a video clip you saw, that it's being the video clip has been taken by my friend's daughter and my friend's mom, whose farmhouse in which we are doing the farming. She is doing that caressing of the honey bottle, and that is the blessing which is there in form of that caressing on the bottle on us. We are thankful and grateful to her. So expansion into other ventures, in addition to honey, we started doing organic turmeric, and also we got into foliage plantation. What you can see in the middle is the Kamini plants. The Song of India is there. We have Draciana Victoria and also the golden bottle brush. These foliage plants in Odisha, in Bhubaneswaer, Cuttack, during the marriage season, the people get it from outside. They get it from Calcutta and Bangalore. So we thought, why can't we make it here? So yes, we have recently started it, and the selling process also has started. Just 3 months old, but we have started selling few of the foliage. With that, we always go for the sharing of knowledge. Whatever the society has given back to us, we are planning to give it back to the society. These are the students of different agriculture universities, the government university, the Sri Sri University, the SOA University, the final year students. They do come here for exposure training and internship for 7 days or 14 days time. So you can see my wife is taking a class of the students there. On the right, I am there teaching them how a HTP pump is going to be used. On the left bottom, the students have been made into different groups, and they're creating the potting media, how different plants can be potted in different medias. And there is some test is going on, and you can see the placard which indicates the name of each Paramveer Chakra Award winner. We also instill some kind of patriotism and some kind of knowledge about our heroes on the ground, heroes of the country, the PVC award winners, both alive and who have given their life, given the ultimate sacrifice for the country. So it's named after each of the PVC award winner, and they read about him. And on the last day, one of the students stand up and speaks for around 2 minutes to 3 minutes about that Paramveer Chakra award winner. This is the teamwork which is going on. On the left side, the second polyhouse, all the plants are being planted, and 40 to 45 students are helping us with that. The middle photograph is some mushroom production. The students are working their hands, And the third is very interesting. It's around 60 students were there, and all students I had given the task to carry out the stitching of the net. The boys and the girls, some of them, they didn't know how to stitch a net. These nets are required for the shade net house. I said, everything you have to learn it. Otherwise, 3 years, 10 years down the line, you ask somebody to do it, you don't know how much time it's going to take on ground. That's what we have been taught in the army, that once we are going to give a task to our juniors, we should know how much time it takes. So I made them into different groups. I allocated them different zones, zone A, B, C, D. Each zone, four students were there, and they were carrying the stitching out there. So these are our products. The people buy the orchid plants to decorate their home, the home garden. We have vermicompost, and also we have got honey. We go by the concept of we grow and we deliver. I had shown you the photograph of the duster in which I was there. Yes, I used to go to the bus stand. I used to go to the railway station. I used to go to the florists. But once the business developed, and almost each day there is a supply requirement. So we had to get another, like we had to use another old car of ours. But we saw that the expenditure is much more. It's around 8 to 9 rupees per kilometer. Recently, in the second polyhouse, we included in the project report to get an electric auto, and now the expenses per kilometer is just 50 paisa. You see, where is 50 paisa and where is 8 rupees per kilometer? So this is our zero pollution initiative for delivery at your doorsteps. We do home delivery in Bhubaneswaer. So this is the polyhouse 1. We have added one more. Second polyhouse is there. It's in the growing stage. And we keep on dreaming. We keep on planning to add if God permits. Yes. And the dream is to have 10 to 15 acres of land, and the poly houses would be there and the orchids plantation would be there.
Orchids and more, a dream come true.
Thank you. I have finished. It's 5:30. Any questions, anyone?
So this is
Okay.
Pratiksha. I'm sorry for, I hope it's okay for me to unmute myself.
Yes, please, you
Yeah,
can do
please
it.
go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think the presentation was very well put together. I just had one question. When you say that, you faced challenges during COVID time, so how did you manage to bounce back? I mean, it was a very difficult phase for everyone. But obviously your story seems very inspiring, and I was keen on knowing how did you manage to come out of that situation where there were no sales, given that we were in a lockdown state.
See, during the lockdown stage, Pratiksha, what had happened is that police permission was there for the farmers to move around. So I had the permission from the government, and also I could permit one more employee to move around. So what we used to do is, number one, the business got less. There was no sale, perfect. But we started planning to get the goodwill of the people. The COVID warriors who were there, the police and the doctors, the medicine shops, the traffic police which was standing on the road, we used to go and distribute the orchids to them. Hats off to these people who were working tirelessly, relentlessly during the COVID time. So one after the other, starting from the highest level of officers in the police department to the constable who is there, who is manning the traffic junction, we had given the orchids, we had gone to few chemist shops, we had given to the doctors, to the nurses. So that's why how we got the goodwill and the blessings of God. And in the same time, when we started pitching in, like the environment was quite morose, and why don't you get some kind of a bliss inside the house? So some glitter inside the house. So we started giving the orchids to the people and delivering it at their home. Third is that when the orchids were there in the bud stage, we started doing the pinching activity. Once you carry out the pinching, what happens? The plant is not getting devoid of the nutrients. It stays, it gets preserved. And once the pinching stops, once the pinching is plucking up the bud and removing it from the plant. Once you do that, then the growth becomes much more better. I hope I have cleared your question.
Yes, yes, sir. Thank you so much. This is very inspiring, and I wish you all the very best for your future endeavors. Thank you.
Okay. So Mr. Brahmananda has posted one message. Congratulations for such a successful venture achieved through meticulous.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So other participants, one by one, you can unmute yourself and you can ask your questions. Mr. Ajay Sharma. Okay, I'll move to Mr. Oman, if I'm pronouncing correctly. Okay, Mr. Padi. Okay, Ms. Riddhi.
Yes, I'm Kanpadi. I have only to add, we have visited his farmhouse, kind courtesy. We had a sort of picnic from the War Veteran Officers Association a month or 2 months back, and I really appreciate and have physically seen the efforts that has gone into bringing this on ground, this project as a whole. And I congratulate Col Sujan Mohanty and his wife for their dedicated effort. All the best, Sujan.
Thank you. Thank you so very much, sir.
Okay. So I'll take up some questions from here. Okay. So I think it's for the basic question. What are the key factors influencing successful and commercial orchid cultivation?
If I can speak in Hindi, it's lage raho
Sure,
munna
no
bhai.
problem, no problem. Yeah.
It's lage raho munna bhai. Keep on trying. Perseverance is the key factor. The challenges will be there. Each day is going to be a challenge. It's not only COVID or funny or elephants coming in, it's going to impose the challenge. Each day, each minute, each hour is a challenge, and we should be prepared for it. We should be proactive about it. What's going to happen? We have to think ahead of the time. And
Okay.
second is, we have to be human in nature. The stakeholders, the customers, they are the gods for us. And the people who are working, we never call them our labor. They are our workers. They are our associates. We have to give them the kind of respect, the kind of lifestyle, what best we can provide with the limited resources what we have. As a principle, what I have done here, what we have done here, like it's a partnership farm, and it's so nice that the partners, all partners are in line with whatever decisions we are taking. 3 years somebody has stayed with us. We give him the EPF, Provident Fund. We give him the ESI. So he is rest assured after 10 years, he is going to get the pension, and anything happens to him or his family, if it is 5 lakhs, 3 lakhs, 10 lakhs, that's going to be taken care of by the government hospitals and even the private hospital. The best of the hospitals also allow the ESI patients to be taken care of on the proper recommendation. That's the second thing what we do. The third what we do is making an accident insurance, like hardly anything you have to pay, but everyone is going to get insured for 2 to 3 lakhs rupees. Fourth, very interesting thing what we do, I have learned it from the army, is that we always used to have a Badakhana in our unit. Badakhana is that all of us, starting from the commanding officer to the second lieutenant, starting from the Subedar Major to the Jawan, all of us sit together and have food together. Once you have food together, the barrier breaks. We follow that in letter and spirit, and we do it once in a month. The whole emphasis is that we have to be human, we have to respect each other, and never say something which you won't like to hear it from someone else. Mistakes would be there, but yes, we have to move beyond that.
Okay. And next question, what are the most profitable orchid species for commercial cultivation and why?
Sorry, could you kindly repeat?
What are the most profitable orchid species for commercial cultivation and why?
See, it depends how beautiful the orchid is. Dendrobium is one of the hardy plants that also goes for a very good price. Also, we have Phalaenopsis, we have got Catalia, and we have got different varieties of orchids. Different 1,600 different varieties of Dendrobium is available in the world. But each of the hybrids, the growth won't be there that much, which is going to be commercially viable. Now, making it commercially viable, it depends how and who is doing the marketing and to whom you are doing the marketing. If I go to the mandi, if I sell it at X price, I go to the retailer, I get 1.5x. I go to the last client, like the customer who is going to use it in his or her house, I am going to get 2x price. I am selling here in Bhubaneswaer, I sell it in Delhi airport, the price increases by 3 times. If I go from Bhubaneswar, the same orchid I have seen, like what I sell it for 30 rupees, in Dubai, it's being sold for 400 rupees. So now the next challenge is how to get a connectivity in Dubai, how we are planning to set our foot in Dubai to sell the orchids. Now the volume is going to increase, the quality is being maintained. We have got the proof of concept ready. Now the second test is happening, confirmation test is happening after the blue litmus test. Why not look beyond it? I understand, like the logistics and other things, the middleman who will be there, let them take the money. Like if it is 10 times 30 rupees and 400 rupees, let people take 8 times. If I get one time more, my margin is going to get increased by 100%. My break even will be half the time. And when we started Orchids, we started with the limited finance, Polyhouse 1 when we did. Once I got the break even, then only I got into Polyhouse 2. So 1 foot on the ground and slowly expand and understand the tricks, understand how the people behave, understand the behavioral approach, then only the things is going to improve. And always there is a window of opportunity. We have to look forward to it. Always there is a chance of improvement. So unless your quality is good, you won't get a good price. So we have to maintain the quality. We have to reach out to the people. We have to explore different windows of opportunities. Then only the price is going to increase. And we have to sell it to the right people at the right place.
Okay. Next question is, how do environmental factors such as temperature and humidity affect orchid cultivation?
Sorry?
How do environmental factors such as temperature and humidity affect orchid cultivation?
Yeah. See, we have very low temperature there in Delhi. Anything in UP, Chandigarh, Punjab, Himachal Pradesh, they are the orchids, the kind of orchids what we are, it's called the warm orchids. There are 3 types of orchids. One is the cold orchids, which grow in Sikkim. Second one is the temperate orchid, and third one is the warm orchid. So these warm orchids require 16 to 30 degree temperature, but the cold orchids can grow, but not so good in Delhi because of one reason is the pollution. Second is the lack of humidity. The humidity is very less in Delhi. You have to create, if you can create that kind of a small poly house, you can create some kind of an humidity control. You can control the temperature. Why not? We can grow it in Delhi. We can grow it in Chandigarh, Punjab also. So we have to maintain the temperature. We have to maintain the humidity. For maintenance of the humidity, we have the fogging system, which is there on the rooftop. We have the sprinklers. We have the misting system, which is there below the beds. The root zone is being humidified. The middle zone is being humidified by the sprinklers, and the top layer is being humidified by the fogging system. To take care of the temperature, yeah, that's another challenge which is there. But the two more challenges I am still fighting it out. One is the marketing to Dubai, and the second one is reducing the temperature. Everything goes good from September till March, but in the month of April, the radar starts blinking, how to maintain the temperature. How to maintain because of the greenhouse effect, the temperature out inside the polyhouse, it goes 3 to 4 degrees centigrade more than the ambient temperature. And in Odisha, Bhubaneswaer, the temperature goes up to 43. And inside the polyhouse, it goes up to 48. That's the maximum which has gone in. So what corrective actions, what we have taken so far is that we have the polyfill. Below that, we have a 50% shed net. So it's being spread and it's being closed as per the timing of the day. The third thing what we started now is this foliage plant. The foliage plant, it's by selling the leaves, you get a very minuscule amount. It's not too much, but yes, it's going to create a soothing effect all around the polyhouse. And all these plants have been planted around the polyhouse so that the sun ray which is there, it gets absorbed by the plants and not too much of radiation takes place. And also we are exploring possibilities of buying something called as the aluminate, which is there in the place near Bangalore. I'm forgetting the name. It's on the way towards Chennai. But yes, the cost is there, another 2.5 to 3 lakhs rupees. So should we really do it or not? We are going to check it out. And another means what we can have to control the temperature is that in addition to the collapsible 50% shed net, we are going to fix a 25% shed net. It's going to be permanently fixed in the polyhouse above the 50% shed net. So that's going to reduce the temperature. The next means what we have taken is, like the irrigation, the sprinklers which are there. So we have got installed the sprinklers on top of the polyfill. So every 1 hour or 30 minutes, we are going to sprinkle water on top of the polyfill so that the temperature of the membrane gets slightly reduced. But you won't achieve more than 2 to 3 degrees centigrade. And yes, the temperature maintenance is very much required. And because of the lack of humidity in Bangalore, though the temperature is very good, very conducive for the growth of orchids, but not too many. They were not very.
Mr. Mohanty, you got in mute. Okay,
Yeah,
please proceed.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is that, in Bangalore, we have got many very excellent people who are the hobbyists in as far as the orchids is concerned, very knowledgeable. I used to take a lot of help, lot of tips from them whenever there was a problem. But commercially growing orchids, I am not sure like the places the adjacent Bangalore is going to be okay because the humidification, the cost becomes exorbitant. The humidity is around 20 to 30% in Bangalore compared to 70-80% natural humidity which is there in the coastal area.
Okay. And next question is, what are the best practices for orchid propagation and nursery management in commercial settings?
Ma'am, orchids propagation, yes, you can do it from the keikis. We have done it. The keiki is a plant which grows on the branch of the orchid when the orchid plant is under stress. So, so those orchids, we can do bit of propagation, but not using the test tube and other things. It's then the focus changes. It's not possible to do it.
Okay. So before I take next question, Mr. Oman, you would like to ask any question? You are in unmute.
Good evening, ma'am, and good evening,
Yeah.
Colonel Mohanty. Earlier, you called my name. You pronounced it very correctly, but I could not unmute in time.
No
So,
problem.
no,
Yeah.
not a question. Now, I've been seeing Colonel Mohanty growing this. I've been following him on this for last 3-4 years. So, what he said is very right. Lage roho munna bhai. His hard work is now showing, and it's an inspiration to all of us. That's all I have to say right now. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. So, and Mr. Mohanty, next question. How do orchid growers maintain consistent quality and bloom cycles in commercial production?
That consistency comes with whatever I had said on the very first slide is the mission is that it has to be technical innovation and standard operating procedure has to be correct. The discipline has to be maintained and the observation is required to be done each and every day round the clock. That's what I said. The challenges are every day. We have to keep our eyes and ears open. Any kind of peculiarities happen, any disease happens. I am not a qualified person on that. But yes, I can see if there is a difference which is going to happen in the plant. Immediately, I have to reach out to the competent people, the Odisha University of Agriculture and Technology. I reach out to my friends in Bangalore, the experts in Bangalore. I speak to number of people. I get the advice and ideas from them. Then I decide, okay, yes, I can use this kind of a product, this kind of a spray which is there. That is number one. Number two is your fertigation and the pesticide application, whatever we call it as the protocol. The protocol has to be followed in letter and spirit, and it has to be spelled out to the people down below, and it has to be explained to them. And if any changes is happening from the standard protocol, why it is happening, that has to be explained to your boys. Then only you can maintain the consistency. If they understand, yes, there is a reason to why sir is saying that the nets are going to be closed or the spread at 22,000 lux. If they know why it is happening, then they will definitely do it. If they know that overwatering is going to spoil the orchids, they will never water orchids more than required. Always overwatering kills the orchid rather than the underwatering. So these are the few things what somebody has to follow. It's a very, very minor things like sterilizing your cutting tools, like the de-weeding, not having any kind of grass or weeds inside the poly house. That has to be carried out. That's going to be labor intensive, but you have to do it. You cannot spray weedicide out there. So that discipline has to be maintained. The process has to be maintained. Then only the growth becomes consistent.
Okay. And how do orchid farmers address issues related to transportation and distribution of their products to market?
Ma'am, orchids transportation is the most easiest thing what can be done here for any kind of flowers business is there. Believe you me, when I started my orchid selling, I was moving from pillar to post to start it. But once I started it, it's now being sold in Bhubaneswaer, Cuttack. It goes to Rourkela. It goes to Berhampur. Outside Odisha, I am sending it regularly to Jamshedpur. It's going inside Jharsuguda also regularly. I am sending it to Jamshedpur. I am sending it to Calcutta. I have sent to Pune. I have even sent to Bangalore and to Delhi. And we send it not by the flight, but by the train mode. And nearby places, Jamshedpur and other places, it goes by bus. My boys go there, they do hand it over to the bus driver carries it, the cleaner carries it, he takes 300 rupees and 500 orchids are being delivered there. The train also, we have the agents here at the entraining station and the detraining station. There is a link up which has been created. And when the train, the first time, second time the orchids were transported, I was standing. I had to go through the entire process. You cannot depend on anyone to do it. Once you know the way how it is to be done, then you can delegate it to the second person. It's very easy to do it. And now we have stopped any kind of a vehicular movement for that. We are now using our electric auto. So that cost saving also is taking place. Yes, what you are saying, if it is going to be in a very much of bulk, say 5,000, 10,000 orchids every day, I have to sell it. We require the cooling stations. We require the cold storage. We require the cold, that cold chamber vehicles, which is going to transport from place A to place B. Then it's going to be transported by air. That's a different ball game altogether. But sending orchids to Bombay, to the other flower markets, I got a thumbs up from the people from there. And they don't do it just like that. They said your orchids quality is good. And see, 40 hours, 35 hours, the orchids was there in the train. So it's a very hardy flower. And if you carry out the correct process of transporting it, the orchids will reach safe and sound.
Okay.
What we call it post harvesting care, what we have to take.
Right. Okay. So, and yeah, how do orchid growers manage pest and disease issues in commercial cultivation?
Sorry?
How do orchid growers manage pest and disease issues in commercial cultivation?
See, in the commercial cultivation, what happens and how it's slightly different from the hobbyists is that we cannot use our hands too much of time for extracting it and isolating the plant. So mainly we depend on the pesticide and the fertilizer, what it's being applied. And for the disease, that's going to be 3 to 4 different types. One is going to be the bacterial. Second is the fungal. Fungal disease takes place when the humidity becomes more. Always it takes place during the rainy season. Once we had the orchids, the polyhouse one in 2018, we had thousands and lakhs of snails. I didn't understand what hit me. That the snails were climbing up on the GI pipe, which is there in the polyhouse. Then we realized it is because of the overwatering it is happening. And some of the weeds, when we cleaned the weeds inside the polyhouse, it was not totally clean. So we had to use the snail kill. The people say that you use beer, you give the banana leaves or the ripe banana, the snails get attracted, but not for thousands and lakhs of orchids in 2,500 square meter or 25,000 square feet area. Then we use the snail kill using the jaggery, and there is a different way of handling it. And in 2 days' time, absolutely not a single snail was there. Once, 2 times we had the snails attack. After that, for the last 5 years, we never have any snails problem in our polyhouse. And we have to go in for the prophylactic kind of spray of the pesticide. Very mild dose, which is required to be given for the fungal and for the bacterial. Yes, it's required to be sprayed once in fortnight or once in a month.
Okay. Before I take next question, I just noticed Mr. Bhupendra Singh had joined. Would you like to ask any question, Mr. Bhupendra Singh? You can unmute yourself or you can post in the chat box.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. This is Col Bhupender from Chennai, logged in. First of all, heartiest congratulations to Col Mohanty and family and all the participants here for having spared their time to come for this wonderful talk. Well, we are so impressed by his the work, the way he has gone about. I won't be able to comment on the commercial things and the retail business, But as far as I'm concerned, I love the orchids and what is doing a great job. All the best, Kal and Mrs. Mohanty, and to all the participants who will come here. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome,
Thank you,
Mohanty.
Mr. Bhupendra Singh. Thank you. So just two more questions, then we'll now wind up. Yeah. So how do orchid growers optimize greenhouse or growing space for maximum productivity?
The orchids are going to grow on the elevated platform on the benches. So we have to understand how much is the working space required between two of these benches on which the orchids are going to be planted. It should not be more, it should not be less. It should be workable. And a man who gets inside the orchids polyhouse, he is able to apply the pesticide, apply the fungicide, applies the fertilizer, and when the requirement is there, he can pluck the flowers, he can cut the flowers and get the leaves, spoiled leaves or the yellow leaves from the plants. So that intersect distance between the benches is very much important. That's one. Second is that if you want to go in for some kind of a vertical growth, very limited scope is there where you can where you can erect the poles and have the horizontal bar on that, and slightly on top and one side of the benches you can have few potted plants can be there. But you cannot have layers like the way you do it. One sees it in the hydroponics. I don't think it's possible to do it because the light intensity light is not going to fall on all the plants.
Okay. So I'll take up the last question now. What are the financial considerations involved in starting and maintaining a commercial or orchid farm?
That's a very interesting question. And yeah, with the government subsidy, what we get, we spend something like after we get the subsidy, say 50% subsidy is there, the project cost for 2,500 square meter is around 55 to 60 lakhs. So 50% subsidy you get, it's around 30 lakhs. You employ 3 labor for 2,500 square meter and other expenses which is there, it goes to around 80,000 rupees per month. Electricity, your lease amount, your labor, your fertilizer, pesticide, electricity, water supply, any kind of the pesticides. So all these things together, it goes for around 60 to 70,000. And the revenue generation per month, approximately it goes from 1.2 to 2.8 lakhs. But if you have two polyhouses, if you have two units, the economy of volume works. You can do the same work using 4 labor by increasing just 1 labor. Your revenue generation increases and your operational cost reduces because the management cost also reduces. So there is no hard and fast rule. And if you can, what I spoke is about selling the orchids in India. If you can get an opportunity to do it abroad, do it in Dubai, for example, which is nearest to my place, then the margin is going to be 2 times. If the break even, in spite of the COVID, in spite of funny cyclone, in spite of the devastation, we could take 5.5 years time to break even in our first poly house. If everything goes good and we get an opportunity outside to sell, the break even could be even in 3 years time. That's good for any kind of business where you can have a total break even. It's not an operational break even.
Okay. Okay. So I don't see any more questions here. Before we end, I would like to check with other participants in Zoom. Riddhi Sharma, Mr. Ajay Sharma. You would like to ask any question?
Hello, everybody.
Okay.
No question for Mr. Mohanty, but I just want to say thank you so much, Mr. Mohanty, for such a beautiful and knowledgeable session. All the best.
Thank you. Thank you so very much, ma'am.
Oh.
Okay. Right. Okay. Okay, Mr. Mohanty, I don't see any more questions from our participants. So now we have come to end of question round. On behalf of agricultureinformation.com, we like to thank you for a very interesting presentation. And we also like to thank all the participants for joining this meeting. The meeting will now be closed.
Thank you.
You're most welcome, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.